Have you ever wanted to start something new and you were so excited to get going, but then you paused and you hesitated because there was a little fear that started to creep in? Maybe you weren't sure where the path was leading, or you were afraid to make a mistake. And that is so much the energy of the Fool. The Fool sits right on the edge between that hesitation and that just going for it. Hi, and welcome to Beyond the Shuffle. I'm Adrienne, your host, guide, and fellow wanderer. And this podcast is a cozy rabbit hole where tarot leads the way into curiosity, self-reflection, and the beautiful mess of being human. So settle in, open your mind, and let's go beyond the shuffle. Hello again, and welcome to the very first episode of Beyond the Shuffle. This is a podcast I have been wanting to create for so long, and now I'm finally here, jumping off the cliff and just going for it. Now, you don't have to be a tarot reader, a tarot learner, into really tarot at all to get something from this podcast. I'm using the cards as a jumping off point because they are the human experience. They're the human experience in a deck of cards. So I want to talk about different aspects of life with the cards as our guide. And today I thought the perfect place to start is at the beginning, number 0, which is the Fool. 0 on its own represents limitlessness, infinite potentials, and the continuous cycle that is life. And in life, we are the Fool time and time again. So as you're listening to this, I want you to think of different times in your life when you felt like the Fool, and you'll know more about what that means if you don't already as we continue. But the reason I'm starting with the Fool is because it's when we have a new beginning. It's when we're ready to take that leap of faith and see where we land. Now, the Fool card itself in the Rider-Waite-Smith deck, you'll see it's a character poised on the edge of a cliff. He has a little sack slung over his shoulder, a red feather in his cap. He's holding a white rose. There's a little dog nipping at his feet. It's a beautiful, bright, sunny day, and he is not looking where he's going whatsoever. He is looking towards the sky, feeling the sun on his face, but not paying attention to the fact that he's pretty much going to walk off a cliff if he takes any more steps. And that's what that new beginning can feel like. When we're starting something fresh, it can feel like we're heading into the unknown. And sometimes we need that. And like I said, there are many times in our lives when we're the Fool. Think about when you're a child even. The first time you go to school, that is a fresh new beginning. You have no idea what to expect. You're going in probably excited, a little bit anxious maybe. And the same thing happens again when we go to elementary school, when we go to high school, when we go to university, or when we start our first job. There are so many times when we go through this cycle. Sometimes we are excited, we're optimistic, we're just gonna go for it, because the Fool at his core is that free-spiritedness, that let's just go, let's see what happens, don't care where I'm going to land. And that can be a very freeing feeling. It's also a hard feeling to tap into sometimes, right? I love when the Fool comes up in readings though, because this tells me that the person I'm reading for, whether it's myself or someone else, they are starting a new adventure. They're probably ready for it too. When the Fool comes up, we're ready for that fresh start. We're ready for something new to move and to maybe change us. But a lot of the hesitation with the Fool comes from the fact that we might not have an extremely clear path, or we might feel like we're starting again. When we're a kid, it doesn't feel like such a big deal. But when you're an adult, that becomes a lot more difficult. And so many times people hesitate that new beginning because they're scared. What I love about the Fool is that it's that reminder that it's okay to be a beginner again. It's okay if you're not carrying your whole life and your little sack on your shoulder. He's not bringing a lot with him. Sometimes we don't need to bring a lot to start again. It's okay if you don't know the whole road ahead. It's okay if you don't have all the answers yet. The most important part is to say yes and to take that first step. Now, if you know anything about me, you know I love collecting tarot decks to the point where it's probably a bit of a problem. But one of my favorite depictions of the Fool comes from The Cracked Amethyst or The Idiosyncratic by Jessica Bott. And it's a little dandelion seed flying off the cliff, just going into the unknown on their adventure, hopefully to root themselves and grow a new seed. But I am still that person who will find a dandelion and make a wish, blow the seeds everywhere to see what happens and see what comes of it. And that is very much embodying that Fool energy. We don't have to be going on the adventure for the end destination. We're going for the journey because a lot of the time, the journey is really the most important part. That's where we learn, that's where we grow, that's where we meet new people, that's where we find out more about ourselves. So I'm not saying the destination isn't important, but it's not the most important aspect of it, right? And we get so caught up in where we're going a lot of the time that we forget just to go. So far, the Fool feels pretty good, right? He feels carefree, he feels spontaneous, he feels excited about what's to come. But of course, like all cards and like all aspects of life, there is a darker side to the Fool. And for me, I always see that as the fear and the hesitation. A lot of the time, it's the fear of failure. It's the fear to start, the fear of the unknown, the fear of uncertainty, the fear to look stupid. Who wants to jump off that cliff into something ridiculous and then feel like they got nowhere or nothing from it? Who wants to jump off the cliff and then feel judged by everyone around them? And I'm not saying that's going to happen, but that's when we get into our head. That's when the fear takes over. And maybe you've heard this before, but humans, we're not wired for success and excitement and fun. We're wired for survival. Our ego so often gets in our way because it wants us to survive. Our brain has been programmed to help us survive. And jumping off a cliff, even metaphorically, is not a way to survive. That doesn't feel good all the time. It doesn't always feel safe. And the less safe it feels, the harder sometimes it is to break through that resistance. And sometimes we have to reconcile the fact that we might not feel 100% comfortable or 100% ready for that new beginning, for this new cycle to start. We have to trust ourselves. Right? We have to learn along the way. We have to get comfortable with the uncomfortable. And sometimes all it takes is a soft little yes. So I want you to think about a time when you jumped into the unknown, when you went for something new. What did you do? Where were you in your life? And what happened as a result? Now, for me, every time I think of this question, the one thing that stands out to me is when I decided to go to Japan. I went to Japan twice, once to study abroad, and then I moved there for 5 years. And more so the first time, but I had remnants of this the second time as well. But I remember I had applied for a study abroad. I had to get out of my comfort zone and ask people for recommendation letters, which as a shy university student was not easy, but I really wanted to go. And there was no guarantee I would be accepted. So I just went for it. I thought I'll try it. Worst case scenario, they say no, right? Absolute worst case scenario. But of course, I was accepted. And I got on the plane. I was excited. I was sitting in my seat, and we get halfway across the ocean, I guess, halfway around the world there. And I'm thinking, oh, dear God, what the heck am I doing? That optimism, that excitement, that I'm ready for this journey turned into fear and dread. And my face, I could just feel, sitting on the plane, I could feel the color draining from my face. The pit of my stomach was bubbling. I was trying so hard to hide the fact that I was crying to everyone around me because I didn't want to be that lame person sitting here crying on the plane. And after time it settled, I got off the plane. I made new friends. I started going to school in Japan, and my second week there, I landed up in the hospital. So that was a good time. Even going to, this is ridiculous, but even going to the washroom was an adventure. I went into the hospital washroom, and there's a control panel on the wall, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I can't even flush the toilet here. I don't know what button to use to flush the toilet. And that was such an adventure to me, and I have absolutely no regrets that I did it. Had I not gone, had I somehow been able to turn around the plane, I don't know, but had I not gone, I know I would regret that because so much of that experience shaped who I have become. And I met one of my very best friends in the world studying in Japan. And had I not gone, we would have never have met. And that just feels really sad. So again, when did you jump into the unknown? And what happened as a result? Because sometimes when we prove to ourselves that we've done it before and something good came out of it, it makes it a little bit easier to do it again. And if you're wanting to start something new and you're feeling stuck, first of all, start with that soft, simple yes. Just say, you know what? Yes, I want to do this. Visualize yourself doing it. And if you're like me and you can't actually see things when you visualize, that is okay. Visualization doesn't necessarily mean that you have to see it, but it's that knowing. Maybe you hear it, maybe you sense it, maybe you feel it in your body. So feel your way through that new beginning. And if you're someone who's very timid, very change adverse, very adventure adverse, you just want to stay in your little bubble, but you're really wanting to get out a little more, you're really wanting to be a little more spontaneous, to say yes to more things, start small. Get out of your comfort zone a little bit. Do little things, because the more you prove to yourself it's not as scary as you think, and it's not as dangerous as it might seem in your mind, the easier it is to go forward. And if you're anything like me, you can make up in your mind a million, a million different reasons why you shouldn't be doing something, why it's too scary, why no, you're not going to start that today. And with the Fool, we want to embody that energy of let's go for it. Let's go for it and see what happens. And another really great way to get into that feeling is to think of it as an experiment. It's not a pass failure kind of thing. It's an experiment. We're going to try it. Because if it doesn't go quite right, that's okay. It was an experiment and we learned from it. And if it goes great, then awesome. It was a super successful experiment and I loved it. And that's great too. Both sides are really good for you, because it's better to know and to learn than it is to always wonder. Now, somebody I know, I had asked them, what do you want to do in life? Like, if you could have your dream job, what would it be? And they said to me, oh, I want to be a pilot. And I thought, cool, all right. So have you ever flown a plane? And they said, no. And I thought, well, that's weird. So I said to them, well, how do you know you want to do that if you've never even flown the plane? What if you never find out and you dream this your whole life and it turns out you hate flying a plane? So they went and they tried it. They did like a discovery flight. They started taking flight lessons. They got their pilot's license. They love it. But the whole point of that story is, if you don't take that risk, if you don't jump off the cliff, how will you ever know? And I think we all hear this all the time too. The things that people generally regret in life are not doing it. So go for it. Embody that Fool. Be a little bit timid, a little bit afraid, but go for it anyways. So if you're wanting to step out, if you're on the precipice of something new, you want new adventure in your life, let's do a little collective reading to see how we can embody some of this Fool's energy. Now, the deck I'm using is the Cracked Amethyst Tarot by Jessica Bott, and you can see photos of this in the show notes or on my Facebook page, facebook.com/Beyond the Shuffle podcast. I'd love for you to join me there. Come leave comments, ask questions, hang out. I would love to see you and meet you on the internet in a way. So shuffling up these cards, we're going to pull 3. And this is a collective reading, so take what resonates with you at this time and leave behind what doesn't. Just pulling our 3 cards. All right. Oh, I love it. So we have the Sun, we have the 10 of Swords, and we have the Chariot. Woo! So the Sun is a card of success, of happiness, of achievement, of warmth, of brightness, of vitality. And when we're trying to step into the Fool, wonderful energy to have, but it's that card of wanting us to be free, to enjoy and be happy in what we're doing. And if we're never doing something new, we do start to get tired and stagnated from the same old. Even our brains do. You'll notice that when you're not doing new things, time actually passes more quickly. And this is in a book I read. I forget which book it was, and I'm sorry, it was some neuroscience book. But a lot of the things where people are like, oh, time has passed so fast. It's because you're not doing new things. Our brain loves new, novel things, and that actually slows down our perception of time. And that has nothing necessarily to do with this, but I thought was really interesting, so I'm throwing it in there. But if we want to step into the Fool, we have to step into that brightness, into that vitality, into that desire to enjoy ourselves, to get out there into the world. Now, with the Ten of Swords, we do have some failures in our life. We've tried stuff and it has sucked, it has gone wrong, and we really have to heal and move through that energy. We can't let the past be a reason why we're not doing something in the present or moving towards something in the future. So the Ten of Swords really encourages us to confront those fears, to confront that fear of failure, to move through that energy, knowing that we don't have to go down the same path time and time again, unless we're so stuck in our minds that it's going to go that way. Now, the Fool with his carelessness, he is not expecting to fail. He's not expecting things to go horribly wrong. And even if he's had that experience before, he's like, this is a brand new slate. We're starting fresh. There's nothing in my bag. Let's just go for it. And with that Ten of Swords, it's the reminder that we often do have to move through that to get to the other side. Because after the 10 comes the Ace. And the Ace is a breath of fresh air. It is aha moments. It is clarity. And we can't do that if we're not grieving and processing any loss or disappointment that we have been through. But don't think that just because it happened once, it's going to happen again when you're doing something different and something new. Then we have our Chariot. I love the Chariot card in this deck. It's a waterfall, and waterfalls just feel so powerful to me. I live near Niagara Falls, so maybe that's why as well. But the Chariot is success and victory at the cost of determination and willpower. So if we want to embody the Fool, we do have to leave our comfort zone behind. We do have to decide that we're going into this for the journey, and that journey is going to be successful in some way. We have to focus our energy. We have to be motivated and disciplined to just go for it. And the Chariot's like, let's do it. I love the Sun in the Chariot, especially too, because it shows there is so much potential for good things to happen. There's not saying that there might not be a bump or two in the road, especially with that Ten of Swords, because it's life and there always is. But we can't let the bumps in the road stop us from achieving where we want to be. So I want to challenge you this week to embody a little bit of the Fool in some way in your life. And maybe that's something as silly as trying a new type of tea or a new flavor of chip or going on the swing set and swinging like there's no tomorrow. But I want you to embrace a little adventure, embrace that optimistic spirit, embrace a little bit of spontaneity, and enjoy where you're heading. Now, I do want to say that fear isn't always bad. And yes, sometimes it protects us from making a mistake. And the Fool isn't a card that says, say yes to everything, jump off every cliff, take all the risks. We do want to make sure that we are listening to our mind, our heart, our body to know what new beginnings and what new adventures are worth pursuing. So if you don't have that soft yes anywhere within you, that's your sign that maybe this isn't a cliff worth walking off. Thank you so much for sharing some time with me and for being here. And I hope that you enjoyed the first episode of Beyond the Shuffle. If you did, make sure you hit subscribe. It'll come out on YouTube and anywhere that you love to listen to podcasts. You can follow me on facebook.com/Beyond the Shuffle podcast or on any of my social media, which is Adrienne Amari Tarot, and check me out at adrienneamari.com. Stay safe, stay curious, and I'll see you next time on Beyond the Shuffle.